Hello all, welcome to lesson number 10 of the Queen versus Rook masterclass. This lesson will cover the wishbone position. The wishbone position characterized by having the king and the queen separated by two squares, and then the rook and the king already connect to the border of the board in this situation. And if you notice the design, it's resembles a wishbone. That's why the position got this name. I will teach this in two separate lessons because we have basically six positions depending on the starting position of the king. I will call it position number one if the king starts in a4, position number two, number three, number four, number five, number six. Number seven and number eight, it's just the mirror position from other positions we are covering. So we have six basic starting positions for the wishbone. In this lesson, I will cover position one, two, three, and six. And on the following lesson, in another video, I will cover the hardest ones that are four and five. The hardest because they have different ways for the defending side to play that make it harder for white to remember what is the technique. So let's start seeing here by the easiest one, that when the king is on the sixth position, in the wishbone position, and now white to move. Very easy. I just play king to f3 and I will reach a Philidor position. If you don't know how to break the Philidor position, just go back to lesson number one. I will be very fast here just to give an example. This is the best defense, and then white just give a couple of checks until it can create the Philidor fork, where I will grab the rook in the next move. The king moves away and I will just checkmate it. So this is the easiest one, where the king starts on the sixth position. We just approach the king and we transform the position into a Philidor, and it's very easy to win. So let's start now by seeing the most typical position, the one where we apply the simplest technique to break the wishbone. We want to force black to move the rook away. So we start by giving this check. I need just to force the move to white, okay? Check, the king moves away, and now we are threatening to grab the rook. Of course, the king can't move away from the rook, and if it goes up, I just fork it and I will grab the rook, so this is not an option. The other option is to move the rook away, but this will be the distant defense that we want to create, so it's just gonna make it easier for white, so the rook comes down. Comes down, and I give this check, where I'm threatening the rook, so the king only has one possible move. And then I move the queen to the other side, cutting away the king. And now black is simply forced to go distant. Because otherwise, if I give a check trying to delay things, I will just make things worse, because checkmate will come on the next moves. So not a good solution. So black needs to go really far away. And now, as we saw on the last video of the triple threat, we are going to try to enter the forking diagonal. We have this adjacent diagonal, and the idea is the sooner we get there, the more black will be forced to abandon and lose the rook. So we give this check, trying to approach these diagonals. The black king can try to resist, but we keep giving checks, always trying to be close to the key diagonals. Here, if the king tries to move away, we will have this fork. So the black is already limited. We give this check, and again, if the king moves here, I will have a fork over there. So the king moves inside, and now this situation was explained on the triple threat video. We simply attack the rook and create this triple threat attack that we saw. So best defense possible, just to delay a bit more, is to give a check, but now, as I am controlling the checking square, the rook can't give another check, and now black has bigger problems because I have a checkmate threat over here and a checkmate threat over here. So what can black do? Nothing, because if moves the king, I will checkmate it for that side. If it moves the rook, I will have a checkmate either on one side or the other side. So probably this will be the last chance, but then I'll fork the king and the rook and win the rook. So the technique, the simple technique, is to force black into a decent defense. Uh, we we now move the position one square to the border, and let's see what happens. We give the same check. The king moves up. We attack the rook in the same position. Now, as we saw, going decent is what we want, so it tries to delay. Check, and now move the queen to the other side to force black to go into a decent position. And we again try to approach. Black tried to resist, and the same situation goes on until we reach this same point. But now is the first small detail. Because if we move to try to set up a triple threat, it won't work because I can't go to minus a1, if you understand. I am threatening mate, I am threatening the rook, but I don't have the triple threat. This allows black to just give a check, and when the king moves up, bring the rook again, protecting the only checkmate. Because if I had the triple check, I would have a checkmate on the other side, but now I don't have it. So let's go back. When we reach this critical position, that it's the small detail that from a typical wishbone position attacking a distant defense, we have another check that will give us the fork. And so we just need to think a bit, but it will be either on this diagonal or on this diagonal that are adjacent to the forking diagonal. So, and check will be, of course, over here. Why this is the check? Because if we see that these are forking squares, now the king simply doesn't has anyone to go. So I will fork the rook over here, and if the king goes to the other side, I will fork it over here. Let's see this from the beginning, and I will try to explain this again in a different position. So the king approaches. Now the rook tries to delay the distant defense. I go to the other side. The distant defense shows, but now let's see what happens if the king finds another position. Let's see, for example, over here, and I don't have a triple threat again. But what I need to find, if you remember, I need to go to the adjacent diagonal to find where is the critical check, and the check is over here. So I need to give a check inside one of these adjacent diagonals. The only one is this one, so I will give it. And now, as you can see, like before, I will have again a situation where black is in zigzag. It can't resist to be forked. For example, if it goes here, I have a fork, and if it goes to the other side, I will have a fork over there. So we have covered already 3 positions. Now let's move back to the last one of this video. This position where our king is on the border of the board. The problem is we don't have the check on the other side to force black into a decent defense. We don't have queen minus a1 or something like that. So we need to find a different way to break this defense. And the way is to give a lateral check. Check, now the king needs to move. It has 3 possibilities. These 2 are basically the same. I will explain why. Let's see if the king moves here. I pin the rook, so the king needs to move away. If the king moves sideways, I will approach the king. It will be happening soon. If the king tries to resist with another check, I will give, with another move, I will give this check, go into this position, and if we go back a bit, if the king goes here, I directly go there. And so I get this position. Now, the king is forced again to go down. and I approach my king. So now I'm approaching and threatening checkmate. So black needs to do something. If it goes with the rook away, I will have a very easy way to pin it. Let's see, for example, check. This is the technique we saw on position number 2, because these squares will allow a fork to the rook. So if the king now moves here, I will have a fork and win the rook. So the rook can't really move away sideways to the distant defense, and sideways also not, because I am threatening here a checkmate. So it can't go any of these squares. So if it tries just to control to protect the checkmate, then I'll simply check and check and checkmate. So coming back to the same starting position, when I give this check, the king really can't go to the board, so needs to go to the other side. And now I approach my king. I am threatening again, connecting with the rook. The king can't move, otherwise I will take the rook. So if the rook goes decent, like for example here, I will have always one fork. So it can't be done now by black. So if it stays on the same, for example, I will have several forks, so also not an option. So the best move for black is to go over here to d2. And now I approach my king. I approach my king, and so black now is forced to make a very smart decision, because if I move the rook, for example, to a decent defense, I will have a checkmate over here. So the rook can't leave the second rank. But the problem is, if I go, for example, to this side, I will have a fork over here. If it goes over here, I will have another fork, and when the rook comes back, it will be pinned and I win the rook. So the problem is complicated for black. So the only solution black has is a very smart move. It's to check over here, because now white can't move, otherwise it will be stalemate for black. If I take it, now black can't play and it's a draw. We don't want that. So check, and we are forced to go with the king to this side, attacking the rook. If the rook stays in the third rank, it will be easy catch. We just move. We saw this on the third rank defense. If you want to remember, just go back to that lesson and you'll find this position. Now there's no way the rook can escape. It needs to go far away, and then it will be easy catch. And so the rook here needs to go distant. And now starts the technique, because we don't have our king in the ideal position to force the break of the distant position. So we need to think this in a slightly different way. We need to approach the king, so we need to control the checking the rook is threatening. So we'll use the adjacent and the fork threats on these diagonals to reach there. So we are going to give a check. Okay, if the king moves up, for example, we give another check, and now we are already covering the key square. The king moves, for example, over here, it will be a fork, so it can't be done. And if when it goes here, because on the other square it will be also a fork, so when it moves, I just approach my king, and now, as you can see, it's harder for black to find a useful solution, because it can check our king and we are threatening mate, so the king needs to move, and when it moves we are in a more common position where we can again use the triple threat to win the king. So let's go back to the beginning, review this one. This is a bit harder, but not very hard to remember. We just give a check. The best possibility for black is to bring away the king. We approach our king. The rook goes to d2. We again approach our king. The smartest and only way to delay this is to give this check, we can take the rook, so we move the king again. The rook goes decent, and we try to control the checking square. Let's see how we have done it. Check. Now the king approaches, and we have a pure decent defense to break, and it won't be less long with the triple threat. Okay, we have seen the king starting in position number 1, number 2, number 3, and the easiest one, number 6. And we will cover positions 3, 4, and 5 in the following video, that will be the problematic wishbone positions. Hope you have enjoyed, and I hope to see you again in the next lesson. See you and have great games.